Alrighty, welcome to our bonus video on dividing fractions, and this video is designed to answer one very important question. And that question is, why does the second step tell us to change dividing fractions into multiplying fractions by the multiplicative inverse or the reciprocal? And the answer to that question is, well, it's simple. We want to make the math simple and not complex. So let me show you exactly what I'm talking about. I'm talking about 2/3 divided by 4/9. Okay, so we don't need to make anything improper, so we don't have to worry about that. But the second step says change the division to multiplication by the reciprocal of 4/9, the multiplicative inverse. Well, there's another way we can actually write this division. In fact, you've probably never ever seen two fractions written as a division problem in this form, 2/3 divided by 4/9, where you have this fractional bar here, and you have a fraction in the numerator, 2/3, and a fraction in the denominator, 4/9. That is called a complex fraction, having a fraction in both the numerator and the denominator. But it still shows division, because that fraction bar is a division bar. Now, when we think about it this way, we have to decide, how do we make this complex fraction simple? Well, the easiest way to do that is turn the denominator into 1. And we just learned very recently how to make a fraction equal to 1. What do? That's right, we multiply by the inverse, the reciprocal. Because when you multiply by the inverse, the answer is 1. So, to take 4/9 and turn that into 1, we've got to multiply that by 9/4. Well, we also know that if we do something to the denominator, we must also do it to the numerator. It's like simplifying fractions. We can't just change the bottom to 1 and say everything's okay. The value of the fraction would completely change, and it wouldn't be the right answer. So if we multiply the bottom by 9/4, we have to multiply the top by 9/4. Now, that means we have another complex fraction that we're multiplying the first complex fraction by. However, this second one is actually equal to 1. 9/4 over 9/4 is equal to 1. And anytime you multiply a number by 1, the identity property that we talked about a couple weeks ago says that you get that number. So 2/3 over 4/9 multiplied by 9/4 over 9/4 is going to give us 2/3 over 4/9. It's going to give us 1. However, what do we recognize? That if we take 4/9 and divide and times it by 9/4, we're going to actually get a fraction that looks like this. 2/3 times 9/4 over 1. We've made the denominator simple because the 9s simplify out, the 4s simplify out, and it gives us 1 in our denominator. So now when you're dividing something by 1, well, what do you get? You're going to get that number. So you're going to get 2/3 times 9/4, because we don't need to have that 1 anymore. All we have is the math that's in the numerator. And that makes it simple. We can simplify out right here. 3 goes into 3 once, goes into 9 3 times, 2 once, 4 2 times. Our answer is 3/2, which is 1 1/2. And voila. So we make it simple by going from our original problem of division to our problem of multiplication by simply multiplying by the inverse or the reciprocal. We skip all this stuff in the middle that we know has to happen, but we don't need to show it all because we understand now why we go from dividing to multiplying by the inverse or the reciprocal. Make sense? Outstanding. That's all I had to show you. We'll see you another time, like tomorrow maybe.